mucho here. First start off with Blaine here, who's in PGA East with this idea, and that's basically how anything in the guild happens. So if after this thing, if you enjoy this evening and you're saying, we should do more of X, or there needs to be a panel on Y, let me know what your X and Y is, and we'll put those together and figure out something. But tonight, this is all about live streaming and producing live streaming content, and it's something that I'm personally interested in. I've tried to do it a few times myself. I almost tried working with you to do it, and then you told me not to do it because I was crazy at the moment that I was wanting to do it. Which I totally agree, it was not the time to do it, so I wanted doing it with my phone, using one of these apps that I know that Amber J can even talk to you all about, like the Hang With one. At the time, I think I used, I can't remember what it was, but it was a live stream for a political march that I was organizing in DC at the time. Yes, the Million Puppet March. So
the Million Puppet?
So that was a craziness thing, and it was good that I didn't do that, but I saw what it would have taken, because luckily there was students from Medill University who live streamed it that day. So, and that was a production. So I'm interested to hear about the productions that go on with these guys. I also want to just make an appeal for you guys to recruit new members into the PGA. Is there anybody here who's not a current member of the PGA? Okay, welcome. And if you want to find out more about the PGA, ask the person to your left or right or in front of you. And then also, just the gist of it is, it's basically an organization for professional producers who are pursuing this as their full-time craft to kind of network, find other opportunities for each other. So meet with each other after this. This will go on for like an hour, and then you can mingle with each other afterwards. There'll be some more of those cupcakes.
Oh my God, they're so good.
I am a gluten-free vegan person, so I just admire that from afar. So
You had me at
and that's it. I want to, if you just keep your eyes open for other events. This month is chock full of different things for the New Media Council.
Like what?
Well, we had.
as she's live streaming you right now on Twitch.
She's a good girl.
The big thing that we'll be doing on a regular basis going forward was we had a mixer with the AP Council, which was like kind of like what those breakfast orientations were like. This one had 30 people at it. It was pretty good.
Great.
Yeah, it was just a round table thing where you get to really quick, more intimate setting to know who each other is. We did the same thing with the New Media Council last weekend, which was a show and tell. So if you've got something that you think is the bomb and you want to share with other people, and just we saw stuff that was everything from like something being used in a museum to 3D painting on buildings and doing all this outdoor special venue stuff. It was totally mind blowing. That was from you. That's it. There's mind-blowing stuff, but it does take you to help blow those minds. So I would say if you want to get involved in doing stuff, let me know afterwards. But I will. Blaine, are you ready or are you ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Should I vamp?
No, we're all good, yeah. We do have one panelist who's coming up from security, but we're good to get started.
All right, so I turn it over to you, Blaine.
Cool, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. My name's Blaine Graboyes. I'm a PGA member. We put together this panel today with some great folks to talk about live streaming. As Michael mentioned, this kind of started when I was back east at an executive committee meeting, and I was sharing with everybody else in the executive committee meeting about the League of Legends event at Staples Center that had like 30-some million viewers, and they had never heard of it. They had never heard of live streaming. They didn't know what this was about. They were astounded at the audience, and so we thought, let's start sharing this with the membership. So that's really where this started. We're going to do this same event in San Francisco and New York as well, because there's just been a lot of interest from the members. So before I introduce the panels, I actually just wanted to start by showing people around some of the popular streaming sites. This is a site called Twitch TV, which is actually a partner site of Efren's company, Justin TV. I just want to point out, so like these are all games and people, I'm going to show a little bit of it in a second. So these are all people, mostly in their house, small studios, working by themselves, broadcasting themselves, playing video games. So there's 66,000 people watching people play League of Legends right now. And I'll just pop it on for a second. So here's the most popular channel. There's 20,000 people watching right now. They have 175,000 subscribers. And we're going to see an ad for a second, but we'll just let that go. ultimately there are kids playing video games. And actually it's a little unfair to say kids because we were talking a little bit before. The demographics of this are not what you'd expect in video games and a lot of the other areas as well. These aren't kids, these are, you know, adults and parents and families. But I just want to kind of show, you know, what's happening out there because a lot of people might not even be aware of what's happening. So, you know, this next site, this is Justin TV, which Efren represents. This is kind of where streaming started, and I think we'll get to talk about that a little bit. But again, this is a free platform for people to broadcast. Some of the channels have small viewership, you know, 50, 80, 100. Some of them have huge viewership, and that's really the opportunity that we're talking about today is, you know, everyone has the ability to have their own channel or network, but what does that really mean? So I'm going to just jump in here and introduce our panelists a little bit. So this is just a shot of the Staples Center from last year at the League of Legends event. They sold out Staples Center. They had around 33 million viewers. To put that in scale, Thanksgiving football does around 25 million viewers. So everyone thinks that's really big. It's actually not that big anymore. Super Bowl does about 100 million viewers, so about a third of the audience. I'm going to skip over this, but I did make this so that we can send it to everybody, and if you want it for later. But this is just the introduction that everybody hopefully read about. So starting from our left, we have Amber J. Lawson. Amber's the CEO of Comedy Gives Back.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Over here on my right, we have Marc Scarpa, the founder of Simplynew. Efren Toscano, partner manager at Justin TV. Marc's going to be joining us in a second. Marc East, who's the executive director of iStream Planet. And then I'm going to moderate today. And again, my name's Blaine Graboyes. I'm CEO of a company called Beyond Gaming. We work in esports. So I'm going to start off by introducing Amber. And for each panelist, I just have a short slide about them. And then like a short 1 to 2 minute clip that kind of gives a sense of what their work is. So I'll just read a little bit. Amber is a top entertainment executive, seasoned producer. She's done an enormous amount of, yeah, great way to put it. She's also a very active PGA member. She was part of the team that created the Hang With app, which is an app that lets you hang out with celebrities in real-time live streaming. And today we're going to show a clip from Comedy Gives Back, and maybe you could give a short introduction to what that is.
Sure. So Comedy Gives Back is a social benefit enterprise, and it was founded by 2 other chicks who are in the comedy business for a lot of years. And we came together to create a global kind of movement of social good leveraging comedy. And I think the differentiating component is live streamed. So the great news is that through live streaming we can connect on a global scale, and the idea is to raise the vibration of the planet through laughter, and live streaming being the connector of that. So that's Comedy Gives Back. We just did an event at South by Southwest, live streamed on Yahoo, that raised awareness for Feeding America, and our 24-hour global event was in Australia, London, New York, and LA. And that was raising funds and awareness for malaria no more.
And that's what we're going to see right now.
Yeah.
So I apologize in advance. This starts out with a short commercial, but we can skip it in 4 seconds. But actually it is relevant to the discussion later of how you make money doing this. So this is like a minute or so.
If I had to picture my dream 24-hour telethon, it would probably be for malaria no more.
Yeah, but you would need some tables and chairs.
You'd want some tables and chairs.
Australia involved.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In the What's Trending studio. Absolutely. But again, it's just a pipe dream.
We'll get there someday.
So we're doing a digital telethon right now to raise money to eradicate malaria.
It's a little disturbing.
That's what we're going to turn it. How often do you eradicate? Not often.
It's nice for people to have a chance to step away from their online pornography to watch it. Maybe they'll still masturbate with some too.
It's always fun to see during the day doing something. It's always weird. Oh, that's my wish.
using the stream. So I'm introducing, for example, we had Bud Free from Toscano Award, we had the Midnight Show from UCB, I brought them out, all for kids, I had never heard of them. There's also a great band called the Raining Microphones, fronted by a stand-up, Greg Barron.
The 7:30 a.m. call time today to play rock and roll music is not the way it goes.
Every time I do 7 p.m., there was a three times we have at 9:30. I have to attend a meeting during a song.
I'm world premiered a character to stamp out malaria. That's a huge contribution, and I've started to think it might have been too much to give to the cause. No. It was the right thing to do.
It's impressive to me that comedy gives back. It's something that long. No one has ever done something continuously for 24 hours before, so this is an amazing achievement. So
People have actually done 24-hour things.
I don't think so, and I really wish you would not argue with me.
So, I thought that was.
Your applause.
Great example because something you don't necessarily think of, live streaming comedy. At first I was like, I didn't necessarily think of that initially, and one of the things we wanted to do was just represent a lot of different perspectives. So next we have Marc Scarpa. Marc's a veteran director, executive producer of live participatory media. There's a lot of credits there. They're really, really big shows. Marc's also a very active PGA member and has done a lot of work across different areas in live streaming, from esports to entertainment and kind of all the different areas, right?
I guess jack of all trades.
So you want to give a quick introduction to what we're about to?
Well, it's just a clip reel, a couple of different clips of some of our latest projects over the last couple of years that might be relevant for the audience. So thanks.
Cool. And again, Marc's the founder of a company called Simplynew.
Grammy Live. 72 hours of live, online-only, participatory programming, highlighting the most exclusive Grammy Week events leading up to music's biggest night.
In the summer of 2011, groundbreaking alternative rock band Incubus returned to announce the release of their 7th studio album, If Not Now, When, through the innovative, fan-centered participatory media experience, Incubus HQ Live.
The most anticipated launch of the fall 2011 season was the U.S. debut of The X Factor. As the global phenomenon was entering the U.S. market, the show intended to appeal to a younger audience and went digital to do so. Sony Music's direct-to-consumer team was brought on to produce a digital ecosystem that would both introduce the brand to an American audience and keep users engaged with the brand and the sponsors every day of the week on every major digital platform. For the lead sponsors, Pepsi, we developed interactive content and franchises giving fans insider details straight from the set of the show. Before each performance show, the online pre-show got the fans excited. We created an hour-long new style awards show which gave fans exclusive insider access into the night's broadcast. Our digital hosts were joined by celebrity guests, judges, contestants, and fans, providing a 360-degree view of the X Factor. But what
What's happening, y'all? It's me, the CIC, aka the Commander-in-Chief, aka the POTUS.
What is the number one question you get asked about the Affordable Care Act?
Yeah, the number one question is, what's this mean to me? And there's so much confusion, people don't understand that if they actually have insurance through their job, through Medicare, stand down. You're okay, you're taken care of. But if you don't have insurance, all of a sudden there's a new world where insurance companies have to play by new rules. They can't deny you coverage, they've got to take everyone, and there's financial.
So next next up, we have Efren Toscano. Efren's the partner manager at Justin TV. I'm going to let Efren talk a little bit later about Justin TV because it's very interesting history. It really is one of the places, if not the place, that this started. In Efren's work, he works with all their partners who are creating content on the platform, folks like all of us that are producing and reaching audiences. And I think we have a clip from a show that you guys did recently.
Yeah. So it was from it's actually, I'm also the founder and CEO of a company called TechZulu. We're a technology news company. And we work with a lot of up-and-coming startups and technologies, and that's kind of how I got involved in this whole live streaming space with Justin and all them, just by the amount of coverage and live streaming that we were doing initially. So this event coming up, it was something that we produced and we also streamed on Justin TV. It's a local event. It's called Reach. It's basically combining education with interaction. So we go and share.
Marc who joined us. Marc was caught in a bit of traffic, so thanks for making it. Marc's the executive director of iStream Planet. Amongst other things, they broadcast this little thing called the Olympics recently. So I think we're just going to take a quick look. This gives a good sense of what Marc's company does. It's a little bit of a marketing video, but I still wanted to show
Did iStream Planet stream the Olympics?
What's involved.
Hi Adam, my name is Kevin Ingman, and I'm the Director of Partner Marketing at iStream Planet. 2014 marks the 4th time iStream Planet has been chosen to provide live streaming services to Olympic broadcasters. This year, iStream Planet's customer, NBC Sports, provided live streaming coverage of every phase of every sporting event across a total of 41 live video feeds. Instead of buying racks of new encoders to encode these video feeds, NBC Sports chose Aventus, running in Microsoft's Windows Azure Cloud for ingest and load, with API-driven ad marker insertion and closed captions processing. The streams are published through Windows Azure Media Services and dynamically transmutes to HLS and HDS formats for live and on-demand.
Everybody catch that? Cool. So if you have technical questions, ask Marc.
It's true, I had to come back. Yeah. Marc, you're gonna email it.
Yeah. I'll let you in on all the secrets.
And then I'm just gonna skip over myself, but I've been an executive producer and game designer for about 20 years. I wanna focus on these guys.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Oh, come
Are those plants in the audience?
No, that's really. Right now the CEO of a company called Beyond Gaming. We do a lot of work in esports. We provide an esports platform to companies like Ubisoft. We work with publishers like Valve. We also work with publishers like Blizzard. This is just a short clip that shows kind of what goes into producing an esports event.
So much epicness is about to happen. It is time. Look how many people are here. Look at this. It's here in Ontario, California, live in Toronto, Canada. Long Beach, California,
We're all genuinely passionate about esports.
What an insane series of matches we saw today.
Sports is a blast, so I'm actually really enjoying this.
We have such a good time. Esports really is for everybody.
So I'm just going to skip out of that, but I have one question. The panel's not about esports at all, but who here knew how big that esports was? So like a very small portion of the audience had a sense of how big. So 3 biggest sports worldwide are soccer, F1 racing, and video games, just to put that in scale. So the opportunity that's happening right now, not just in video games, but in live streaming in general, is just so huge. So I started out with this question like, what is live streaming? And I actually sent this to Marc, and Marc's like, oh, it's so basic. But then I actually got into it, and I was like, well, one thing that is actually challenging about live streaming is it's so new that it's like, what is it really? So I wrote like digital broadcasting, and it was like, but digital broadcasting is what DirecTV does. Online broadcasting, well, create and share live video. That's actually Justin TV's tagline. You know, broadcasting via the internet television, live real-time digital distribution. Who knows? And I have a friend, Billy Pittard, who's been in digital for a long time, and he always says that it takes a long time for terminology to actually find its way, and I think right now this is a great example. We're at a point that the audience is huge, the opportunity is huge, but it's still so early. So a lot of what I was hoping to focus on today was to hear from these guys to talk about how they've gotten into it and where they see it going. So I've organized today into a couple of sections. So I was going to start out with just some positioning, talking about the history of live streaming. When did live streaming gain traction, and how and why? I thought Efren might be able to kick off with that, and then we'll kind of take it around the other panelists.
Yeah. So live streaming has been around for a while, you know, before even the Justin TV days. But live streaming, as we kind of know it now, when Justin came about it was around 2007. So in 2007, Justin essentially started live casting. That's what originally what live streaming was called. It was like live casting, like this whole thing that came about. And so he literally was 24/7, always had a camera on his hat, and had like a computer in his backpack, just streaming his entire life. And he put up his phone number, people would call him, he would take interviews, like it just got crazy. And he eventually rolled out the technology so that everybody could do this. And so, you know, in 2008, 2009, he rolled out Justin TV, and that's when everybody was able to use this technology. And eventually rolled out into gaming, which is like 2011 when Twitch launched, and that's when the huge esports came out. But yeah, it's been around for a while, and it's kind of, you know, with the question, you know, when does it start gaining traction? It's really only been in the past maybe, you know, 2 to 3 years. YouTube didn't really start doing any live streaming until a year and a half ago. Where they, you know, they started doing it a little bit before with their testing and stuff like that, but a year and a half ago is when they actually released it to everybody, and now everybody can do live streaming. But yeah, it's been around for a while, and it's just now starting to really gain some traction.
So does anybody else want to touch on how and why you think it's gained traction?
Well, I think, you know, the immediacy of live, you know, live is just always appealing. I believe wholeheartedly in live, and as Marc Cuban says, live live, and that's his big quote. And, you know, for an app, you know, for like hang with, it's opportunity, I mean, just from Lisa Barr, of seeing into someone's life. You're seeing into celebrities' life in places you've never been. And it humanizes us on a global scale. So I feel like we're finally, like the technology has evolved to a place where we can do it in a real way without it being boop, 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 dialing up to try to connect, that we have the technology so it can be broad.
Yeah, and I think from a technology standpoint, the robustness of all of the supporting technologies that enable kind of a transparent user experience for someone to be able to, find the content that they want to watch and watch it, relatively flawlessly on whatever device they want to watch it on. That really didn't happen until 6 or 7 years ago, like you were mentioning. I've been doing this for 15 years, and I think Marc's been doing it for about the same amount of time. It really was, 2007, 2008 that we got to a point where broadband was so prolific, and the ability for people to stream to multiple devices with adaptive bitrate and streaming. I don't know, it's super technical, but when it
We're going to get super technical in a little bit. Though.
Okay, but when it became, everyone remembers when it was you had to pick a low, medium, or high stream, and maybe you guessed wrong and your experience sucked yourself, right? So now, with the adaptive stuff that came out like 6, 7 years ago, that really kind of lit everybody up to where it was a really compelling user experience, and I think that's what drove the kind of explosion that we're seeing.
Yeah. For me, it's a combination of a couple of things. I sort of like want to feel like the grandpa keys.
Speak up.
I said for me, it's been kind of a couple of peaks and valleys, and I sort of feel like the grandpa here, having produced the first large-scale live event in history, which is the Tibetan Freedom Festival in 1996. For that show, we had 36,000 people come together for a social change, social good experience, and we had about the same amount of people physically at the venue in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. So that's when sort of the red light went off, and I said, well, I'm going to dedicate my life to this new genre of storytelling. It reached critical mass really in the 90s, pre-Flash. Flash obviously has commercialized it, made it more ubiquitous, and now new streaming technologies, HTTP, and so on. But the first event to reach 1 million viewers was actually done by our colleague, Marc, which was the Victoria's Secret's fashion show. Following that, we had the great opportunity to produce the largest online event of the 20th century, which was Woodstock 99 with 2.4 million viewers. And that was using Windows Media Player, and we beat TV viewership on that event. Primarily because the event online had a more robust experience. It just wasn't delivering a video stream of the show. There was a chat interface, for example, which now we would call social broadcast, social TV. We had little documentary films being made. We had photos being uploaded in real time. So it was really kind of participatory in a lot of senses, because we had content even then coming in from users at home that were watching that we would incorporate into the show in real time. And these were all things that you just couldn't do with traditional television broadcast. So it had a big prime time, and it went very commercial in the late 90s. And then it sort of dipped down a little bit when platforms such as Justin TV came along, but prior to that it was YouTube. And prior to that it was broadcast.com. You really started to have a place where the audiences would aggregate and come together. In the case of, again, Justin TV, because obviously he's here, what I really liked about what they were doing, or Justin specifically was doing, Justin Kahn, is he was definitely using the medium in a new way to tell a story about his life in real time. And this is just stuff that you would see in movies or on television shows, but now this is really happening. And that got a lot more attention towards streaming at a time when it really needed it, even though YouTube was already in the marketplace. And now there's dozens of these platforms in China, which I just got back from two days ago. In Hong Kong, they have the equivalent to YouTube there, which has 3 times the viewership. And we all heard about YouTube dropping $100 million on content creators. Well, they dropped $300 million. So it's big, and it's global. It's not going down.
Can I hop in a question?
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
What kind of information can you gather of the users, the people who log in and watch this?
Well, I can answer that, but I think definitely.
What was the question?
So the question was about data capture and what kind of information we're able to capture about users.
Yeah.
Right?
I'll give you my top line opinion on that. These two gentlemen here definitely know about that more than I do. But, you know, we've all heard of Nielsen ratings, and they're not entirely accurate. Streaming, you know where the person is, how long they're there for, and what they're watching. And you can see that data in real time. So I don't have to wait a day or 2 days or 5 days to get my results. It all comes down to who the CDN is and their infrastructure and how it's able to be delivered back to you, the content creator. But certainly iStream Planet has tools for that. I've seen it. I've used their company as a vendor many times, and they've always delivered to me real-time stats and great encoding services. I'm sure Justin TV has great tools
the
too.
QoS analytics that can be provided by some of the content delivery networks out there. Like you said.
Hang on, what's that? QoS?
Quality of service.
Quality of service.
Stop me if I throw out an acronym that's.
I'm going to stop a few times because actually later we're going to touch on it. There's a lot of terminology and slang in this space.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in terms of the quality of the user experience, you can get quite rich data with regard to how long someone watched, what parts of a live stream they watched, what their experience was, in terms of the actual quality of the video and audio and things like that. And then if you're talking about demographic and psychographic information, that's really like any other web experience. It's all a matter of what you capture at the front door. So you can create some sort of registration interface that requires that someone enter a bunch of data, or you can glean that data from wider registration things like the Adobe's TV Everywhere, which is what is used commonly for things like this, so geolympics, that sort of thing. You have to be a cable or satellite subscriber to watch certain types of content. So.
And before I forget, and you can answer it later too. But what about advertisements? How do you set the price for? Is there like I don't know nothing about that.
So it's a great competitive space. Maybe Efren wants to touch on that.
Price for advertising fluctuates. It's just like it basically all depends on how much traffic you have coming to your website.
Yeah, it's all about eyeballs at the end of the day. It's,
so there is a scale.
There's definitely a scale, and I mean I'll actually throw out some numbers because I do some work in the space. So it's definitely premium inventory. I would say folks try to charge a $30 CPM or cost per thousand. I would say that doesn't get hit very often, but I would say that's kind of the target. I would say reality is probably in the sub $10 CPM range, probably even at the low end of that on most networks. And back to the targeting, I would say one thing that Marc touched on earlier that does go a little bit above and beyond, let's say, typical web analytics, is that almost every streaming platform has chat. And so you're really interacting in real time with the fans, and so at Beyond Gaming, we do a lot of events that are sponsored by brands, and the brands are really getting feedback because they're hearing from the users, oh, I love Burger King.
Yeah, it's authenticity. It's like the biggest thing, and there is no better way to get authenticity than live.
Yeah.
So I'll just put this out there. I'm using this Hangwood thing for this now. There are already 8 people that were watching this. I don't know who you are. And then on top, but one of the questions was, what are the Olympics? So I always know, like when you mentioned the Olympics, that was a real question. So you don't always know the quality of the people that are watching. Good point.
Context.
Do you see the advertising? I come from live television, so I'm just wondering, do you see the advertising increasing because you're getting, some of these are getting so many more viewers?
Oh yeah, specifically if you have like a niche target, it's like Twitch TV specifically focused on gaming. So you can definitely drive the advertising way up on that.
That said, I think probably the biggest issue that's going to come to a head over this, and Marc touched on it, is the softness of Nielsen and the hardness of, if you will, of real metrics. I actually just became a Nielsen house, and it's ridiculous how...
Are you still writing in your...
It's just complete, I mean, it's ridiculous that the box is on and it's reporting, but you're actually watching Hulu and not even watching the thing that's on Nielsen. I mean, it's just literally crazy. So I think the biggest issue...
Are you filming that?
Pardon me? I should be. Yeah, that's funny, right? So I think the big issue is that ultimately on the web and digital, it's transparent about it, and in TV, the upfronts make this very opaque. And I think ultimately we're going to come to the crux of people are being overcharged for TV compared to what they're paying digital. So that's just my own personal take on it.
Yeah, I'm also interested in the cost of the live production. I don't know if you're going to.
I think these guys, we're going to get into that a little bit.
I think it's supply and demand, right? TV, there's a finite supply, and whereas online, there is a infinite.
That's a fair pitch, Amber.
It's not my favorite
Yeah,
though.
exactly.
I wouldn't like it to be that way because it makes advertising very hard and it drives our CPMs down.
And that's an issue I think we all deal with, at least when we're trying to monetize, is how do you actually get real money for this?
How do you get real money?
We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
There's a bunch of producers in this room.
I know, right?
Let's cut to the chase. What's the cash situation? Sure. Let him do his thing, though. You're prepared for this for like a month. All right, tell him a story here.
My question was about how you get the eyeballs to your live stream too, because of course you have to do some upfront to get
It's
to
a
your
great
payback.
topic. We're actually going to talk about that quite a bit, and Amber has some, I would say, almost case study to kind of talk about a little bit. So, just to kind of finish this out, does anybody, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but why is this new distribution method actually important? Does anybody want to kind of touch on that?
I have a non-producer answer to that, more of a philosophical answer. And the answer is what Marc is doing right now. He's broadcasting this. So there's one thing where you have YouTube and you're uploading video, and that, just like regular TV or non-live experience, it's edited, it's manipulated, it's programmed. This is pure, it's raw, and everybody has access to it. So if you think about it like that, and then you take it to a very macro level, it's empowering a new way for people to tell stories and change their lives and the lives around them. You look at some very historical events that have taken place over the last few years alone, just the Arab Spring, live streaming, it was there. Now, my first experience with that was back in the 90s, with the Balkans and all this kind of stuff. I had a friend who went there, and he was live streaming, people getting massacred in the streets back to the States using real video. Had an encoder in his hotel suite and just ran a line out the window, and he was doing it. So that is, the power of that is just pretty strong. It's just pervasive. So as producers, we have a responsibility to always remember, forget about the money and all that stuff. The reality is live streaming delivers an opportunity for anyone to tell their story live and in real time as it happens. And that's important.
And humanizes us. It nexuses human beings around the globe.
So we're going to talk about audience a little bit. So I threw out a question to the group, and I said, who watches live streams? And Marc made the point, well, everyone watches live streams. So I thought instead we could talk a little bit about who's watching your live streams. So who's your audience, and how and where are they watching your productions? So maybe let's just start.
Well, for us, I'm a producer, an EP director who produces a lot of different types of shows. I actually directed the first League of Legends series, and some of the other work that you saw there. I had some great opportunities, and feel very happy to have had them. We have to come up with, for our clients and our partners, different strategies for each individual one. In some cases, we'll work with a Justin TV or a Ustream or a live stream or YouTube. So then there's a certain amount of a built-in audience that's, or Twitch in the case of League of Legends. There's a built-in audience around that particular platform, right? Because they're just people coming to that platform, just like they're, coming to a particular website because they're interested in that subject matter, or that they're just delivering a bunch of live event content. We recommend that you have a targeted syndication strategy. So in television, you syndicate your content to as many different places as you possibly can. With live, you want to do that too, in a real-time sense. So, with a project like the Global Festival, which I had the good fortune to be involved in, and AAG actually produced, we syndicated it out to every major broadcaster, online broadcaster we could. So it's Vivo, AOL, YouTube, Yahoo, all these different folks. And that got us to an audience of about 13 million people who got to see the social change, social good event from Central Park, which raised $1.2 billion to end world poverty. So that's significant. Another thing you can do that's a lot simpler, you can go on and broadcast to a Justin TV or a live stream. You set up a free account and you're ready to go. You can take that embed code and employ a blogger strategy. So if you're producing something that might be music oriented or whatever the vertical is of the content itself, find all the other people that have that interest and email them and say, hey, take my show, put it on your blog, take the embed code, put it on your blog. Now you're expanding the reach of your show beyond just that one destination. Go to where the people are, because they're not coming to you. Even if they're on YouTube, they're still not coming to you, unless you have a certain way of getting that done, which we can get into a lot of detail about. But stay focused, be true to the content that you're creating, and go where they are, and have them find you very easily. That will increase your viewers and your viewership, and you control that stream. That player is your television set. You are a broadcast channel at that point. So if you have your advertisers or whomever they are that's underwriting the cost of the show, or the program, or 24-hour network, which you could also set up, it's just about increasing the reach and more folks that are participating and involved, more revenue you can generate.
I think it's so key to keep that in mind, that just producing the stream isn't enough. You have to put it somewhere. People will not search it out and find it. It has to be somewhere that people are going to be. And exactly what Marc said, it has to be in the platform's DNA.
Yeah.
We had partnered with someone that was not their DNA, and it did not drive numbers, even though our push to it was huge. If people's predisposition or their behavior is not to watch live streaming in that venue, then they will not, as opposed to a Justin TV or
Twitch
or a YouTube, somewhere where they're already predisposed to watch it. And then exactly what Marc said, like for us, we partnered with every comedy site, anybody who would embed it. You are our buddy and our partner and our promotional pal. However they can expand that is in order to get 25 million reach. That's what you have to do.
So if any of you have any ideas, just come talk to me. And I will help you push that.
I think one of the things that this speaks to is kind of these extraordinary efforts that you have to go to market content, especially if it's kind of fragmented, long tail type of content. There's no, and everyone's been saying this in this industry for a long time, there's no TV guide for live streaming at all. And many have tried and many have failed. And now, as of a few weeks ago, YouTube is now overhauling their, /live.
Yeah, it's not there anymore.
It's gonna, right. So that it's going to be a guide. And I've heard really good things about the UX and the design of the experience. And I think it's going to be really compelling. I think it's going to make it a lot easier for people who have chosen YouTube as a platform to make it easy to find that type of content. But right now, you have to really try very hard to syndicate it as widely as possible and have all these kind of handshake arrangements with various mom and pop outlets out there, ranging from big to small.
And I would say it's sort of the anti-traditional network approach where, we're here at CBS, they want to own everything, they want you to watch it. It's exactly the opposite, and I think everybody touched on it. You have to give people something, let them exploit it to do their own business, and there's kind of a symbiotic relationship that you're in with all of these partners. And as Marc said, they're almost always handshake. So, you're not going to get contracts over any of this. You're just going to be building relationships with people.
Yeah, and
how
for
long
us,
do you guys spend on your pre-planning syndication efforts before your live event? Because I imagine it takes
big you're going, you know, it could be as little, you know, how much is your time worth? You know, that's basically what it comes down to. If you're going to be sitting there all day promoting it, trying to reach out, talk to folks to get it promoted out there. It's just a matter of how much time you have, or if you want to get a whole marketing company and PR company and do all that thing, that's going to get really expensive.
I think the whole point is that you want to amplify your reach, and the more partners you can have to do that, the easier it becomes, right? If they're just doing the work for you.
I would just say as a rule of thumb, the more you're putting into the day 2 versus the day 1, the more successful you'll be.
And the bigger lead time you have. I can't tell you how many times people come to us 2 days before their event, and they're like, "Can you help us live stream this event and get it promoted?" We're like, "Yes, but
No,
you know,
2 weeks in.
yeah. So the more lead time we have, you know, the better it is going to be for everyone.
And unlike, you know, the 90s, where that idea was very insanely radical, we were doing that type of work back then, and it was all manual. There are companies out there that will help you do that. And then for us on the executive producer side, we have tools and databases. So, you know, if you're doing an event for, say it's a social change, social good events for women's rights, we can go into our database of, 250,000 blogs, find all the different ones that would make sense for that particular event. Or I'll give you a better example. We did that for Tell a Friend Get Covered, which was broadcast we just did for the White House in Covered, California. And we did a YouTube space here in LA. We worked with a variety of different companies to help us get a very increased reach for that show. We worked on it for about 3 months, and it resulted in about 560 million media impressions between social and streams, and when you add up all the numbers, it becomes a very big number. In the case of the X Factor, we did a similar approach, and that wound up with close to 3 billion. So, to their point, it's how much time do you have, what kind of resources do you have, and who cares? Does anybody care about it? How do you make them care?
Yeah, it does depend on your starting line too. I mean, if you're doing something like a one-off charity concert or something like that, we worked on the Hope for Haiti concert 4 years ago. That was, ended up having a ton of traffic because it was, for one, syndicated a number of content creators, a bunch of networks, and they all kind of put their muscle behind it. But that type of thing can be a relatively huge fiasco in terms of, the money that's raised or that's recognized.
One-offs are really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're starting from a midpoint, really, like we worked on a project this past year for AT&T for the fan zone, which is all NCAA for this particular thing was football, and so they had the entirety of the social marketing muscle of the NCAA plus the social marketing muscle of AT&T behind this. So it was out of the gate we had a ton of viewership for the very first event, and by the end of I think it was 14 events, it was through the roof.
Right, and then if you have a brand like something like that, or the Olympics, it helps. Like when we were doing the Grammys, it's like there's already a huge brand associated with it. You just need to leverage it. With Tell a Friend Get Covered, going back to that, I mean, Get Covered or Covered California also had a $100 million ad fund that was just raising awareness about it. So once press releases were out about the live stream and all the partners that we did in the syndication strategy that was a part of it, it helped to facilitate that $500 million participants, if you will.
Just to kind of sum it up, I think it's fair to say you won't have any viewers unless you do something about it.
That's fair.
That's pretty.
That's a good summation.
It's not true. He's got 8 viewers.
Whoa, Tori, she said, I love it.
So, someone asked earlier about attracting audience, and Amber actually had, Amber J had put together some great slides. So I just have the 2 in here, which is kind of the overview of Comedy Gives Back, and it kind of gives some stats, 24 hours, 6 shows, venues. But this is the one I was hoping you could talk to a little bit.
Sure. So, it takes a village, and the whole idea of Comedy Gives Back was it was kind of everything's already built in, right? You have comedy venues that people go to laugh already, it only takes a microphone to do it. We thought with the live stream, you could stick a camera in there and live stream it around. And I'm being very simplistic, but stick a live stream in there, but leveraging everybody's input. So there's the venue, there's the talent, there's our distribution hub, there is promotional partners, so Craft and IFC. Then they brought their television shows and their cast on board and their entire cast tweeting and promoting. Then, so leveraging all the social media, leveraging everybody, make sure they put out a press release and put all of their press behind it, getting all the social buzz going around it and the good that we're doing, the charity, building videos, leveraging our brand partners. So then we had Nokia and Acute Fruit, which is like an energy drink, them tweeting it up all day. Various brands, so then the brand reach, the charity activation, and then we had other celebrity shout outs, so people that weren't necessarily part of the 24 hours, but like Jimmy Kimmel gave us a big shout out, Conan O'Brien, Team Coco posted us on their site, people giving us homepage takeovers. So it was this whole ecosystem that it took in order for this movement to happen in 24 hours, this digital telethon kind of movement.
So I just thought this was a great slide. It sort of sums up everything we just talked about of, you've got to activate every piece to have success. So this is something that everybody's brought up a little bit, and I think it's really relevant. So we're all producers. We care a lot about character and story. So, I just was thinking maybe we could talk a little bit about how you deliver character and story via live streaming, and in what ways is that different from VOD, which VOD is a video on demand. Kind of in the live stream space, we use VOD to differentiate from live stream. So like a VOD is a packaged video file. So can everybody kind of touch on that?
I actually worked with a company, or they were shooting a live movie called Kill Cam. It was all based around a live streaming audience. And so for like 30-something days, they were streaming live, and the audience in the chat room, or also we had like video chats on the side as well, were able to dictate what was going to happen to the main characters in the story. And this all was happening in the back end. They had cameras set up everywhere. And it was a really cool thing to watch, because at the very end, people that were chatting and being a part of this are part of the movie. So they gave out shout outs to everybody that gave suggestions and all this. It was a really, really cool thing to see. You should check it out. It's Kill Cam Live.
Do you remember when Team Coco, when Conan moved over, and they had the live camera and you had the zombies and the different, I think that was, a way to launch a show that had never been seen. It was disruptive and interesting, and I remember everybody talking about like having a 2 a.m. where there was a zombie attack on the live cam, which is hilarious, and it creates buzz.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff that we do is typically the kind of things that you see on broadcast, live programming, sporting events, concerts, award shows, things like that. Not a whole lot of character development going on there, but I think it's definitely possible with these types of engagements. The thing that we've worked on that probably has the most character development, strangely enough, would be we've done 3 seasons of Big Brother, 24/7 for. And you end up creating a narrative. Would be with 4 guys sitting in a control room in a house somewhere that are creating that narrative from what's going on live. And I don't think that's possible with any other medium. Although they do televise Big Brother 24/7 in the UK, I don't think we would ever tolerate that here. But live streaming.
We come across this a lot. It's a great question. So I like to say that with live, there are no second takes. So as a producer, you have to be that much more organized, and you have to definitely have your scripting down. You have to have your run shows really tight. You have to have a great team of people in place to help implement that. Live television and live broadcasting online, are not so different in terms of the process. There are distinctions because with live internet broadcasting or IP-based broadcasting, it's a two-way medium. As the example that you pointed out, or Control TV, or some of these other ones, you can have the participant or the audience be participating in the show in real time. That affects your character. And when you do that, you have to actually kind of brief your characters in advance to give them a sense of what those type of things might be. That also includes that you have producers that are actually curating the social media feed, or the chat feed, if you will, so that it goes in the direction kind of where you want it to go. So there is a certain amount of control and direction that you can still guide where it's happening without dictating it. You'd be surprised how many people who are participants in these shows all want sort of to see the same thing or contribute in a similar way. So just knowing that in advance and being able to use technology to curate that will help then, and then of course briefing your characters or your talent and letting them know this is where this might go, left, right, center, up, down, sideways, is how to produce it, so to speak. So we've had a lot of experience with that.
We have one question
about working with all of that.
I'm just curious, is there any archival value to live streaming?
Yes.
I mean, how can it be pushed forward?
Well, I can tell you a great example. Again, forget about the word streaming. Remove it from the vernacular. You're producing an experience. Just like the Olympics is, you didn't produce the Olympics. They were carrying the stream out of all the different Olympic experiences that were then produced and directed by 40 different directors that were overseen by countless executive producers. It was the UX and the UI between NBC and Ice Cream Planet, how that all came together that created a compelling experience. The aftermarket value on all these things that you create are similar to what's the aftermarket value on any kind of broadcast production you put together. For us, a perfect example is Incubus HQ. So we did a real-time documentary, which was this wonderful band was launching their new album, and usually a band would spend a lot of money to go out and do press junket or do some kind of crazy flashy party. So we still had that budget. We did a real-time documentary. We were broadcasting live for 6 days straight, 8 hours a day, of which around 6 of those hours was a single camera just hanging out with the band inside this rehearsal space where other kids could come in and paint and draw, play guitar with them, talk, and just chill. And we did it sort of a direct cinema style. We're going from one character to the next, to the next, to the next. Now, we have kids online that are wanting to ask questions, that are sending in pictures. While they're sending those pictures, you have the artist have a reaction to it. So it's like Michael sends me a picture, I'm the camera person, I said, oh, here's a picture from Michael. Oh, wow, that's really cool, Michael, thanks for sending that. Let's put it up on the wall, right? So at the end of the day, they did a concert performance, a 1 hour intimate performance. We had about 2 million people watch this broadcast over the course of the week, multi-channel broadcast. I mean, go on our website, check out the case study, you'll see it more in depth. The point is, after the fact, we released a limited edition DVD box set. That box set had a price point of about $399. We sold 1,000 of them in 24 hours. Plus, to date, we've sold about 70,000 versions of the movie that we created of all that footage. So I've got 8 hours a day of footage, right, of one of the biggest rock bands in the world, shot documentary style with a multi-camera shoot for a special live performance each night, right? And now we've got a limited edition DVD box set. The box set has a 2.5 hour movie. It's got a book. The book is all photographs that were taken by kids that were physically in the venue. There were no professional photographers there, right? Then you've got, there were CDs, live recordings, there was laminates, all kinds of other cool stuff to make it special. And so it not only paid for the marketing venture of launching this new album, but it created revenue for these guys. And it's a $1 million property that is pretty historic in the sense of what it was, and a great artistic achievement for the band. And I was happy to be a part of it.
That's genius.
I'll just add to that, so each of our 5 stand-up shows, which were 90 minutes in length, were then, we just put a top and bottom on, and it was a special that we sold online to continue donations for Malaria No More. So we had 5 specials from Australia, London, New York, and LA that people could purchase for, 60 days after the event.
Yeah, and a lot of these live concerts and streams do exactly that. They they shoot it all live, and then they sell it later as like a VOD.
Yeah, I would say we VOD every esports broadcast because a lot of times you have different territories. So, Europe missed it, they're gonna watch it the next day, that kind of thing. And you get, that many more views off it.
Yeah, that many more views and actual physical real revenue. I mean, we also put, the movie is available, you can watch it on Netflix and other places, and Vivo and Palladium and all these different places. So it's a 2.5 hour concert film.
Yeah, and ours were sold for what, 99 cents a special and $3.99 for all 5.
Right, that's awesome. And then in her case, she's doing a social change, social good endeavor, so that money's going back for a cause, which in a lot of cases, I've done quite a bit of those as well. People actually are happy to pay for something when they know it's actually going towards something other than someone's pocket, like a producer. So, it makes a lot of sense to look at all of your projects that you do as transformational entertainment projects and really try to find a way to incorporate a positive message in the social change, social good group to associate with. And you can still make money from it, but that money's then being funneled into something positive.
That's very millennial, right? So the whole social benefit enterprise and creating companies that are doing social good or impact built into the business model. Not that you don't have to make money.
Correct.
It is about making money, but you're also doing something good on the planet or pulling out a piece of it for a charity or that is the model moving forward.
And it resonates with millennials because again, it goes back to that whole ideal of being authentic, genuine, and honest. Just obviously make sure the money gets to those nonprofits.
You touched on the handshake nature of things. What are the licensing issues you face? Say, for instance, the pictures that kids took at the venue.
Yeah, Marc actually asked to bring that up, so we're gonna touch actually on licensing and unions in 1 second. That's a great point to bring up, without a doubt. Go ahead.
I also wanted to ask, could you mention a little bit of the size of your team or your crew for some of these projects that you have talked about and budget, just so we have an idea of what we're looking at if we were to hire you for something like this?
Okay, is that all of us?
Yeah, different projects, just to compare a little bit.
Well, our projects, again, just like any live multi-camera shoot.
Like X Factor.
Well, X Factor is a special case. I can't disclose the budget for the X Factor project, the X Factor digital project, other than to say that it was in the millions. And it's very nice to be back here at CBS because we did it here. We didn't produce the show, but we did all the digital components of the show, and we had our own little pre-show, and we've got 4 cameras, you need 4 camera people, you need a TD. So we had a truck, just like you normally have, we had a JOCO, and we put everybody in there. So that particular X Factor digital team was around 40 some odd people. Now that included our social media producers, our engineers, our executive producers, post-production and so on. I guess maybe it was actually closer to 50. At the end of the day. And then that was just the people on site. Then we had at Sony another 30 people back in New York that built the website, the programmers, the infrastructure, and so on. Because that project was very special. They built everything from scratch and was totally customized. In another instance where we're using like a Justin TV or a YouTube or a live stream platform, it's really all the production personnel, it's the social media people that are doing that element, and any other technology solutions that we incorporate to help carry the story through. We have producers that oversee each one of those, right? We don't have the tech people oversee it. We have a producer assigned to that company or that vendor or that tech person so that it's all coalesced and brought together with whatever our story arc is. But we've done projects that are little as $50,000 to millions. So So it just depends. It's just like any other show. What kind of car do you want to drive? What kind of cameras are you going to use? Right? Are they going to be high end, low end? You know. So there's a lot of factors to decide. But without a doubt, there's more people involved than your standard TV multi-camera production because you have these other folks that contribute to the show in real time.
This clip will actually kind of touch on it. So we live stream every day at the studio Beyond Gaming. It's one of the ways that we promote our events. And our daily live stream crew is two guys. Justin, who's on camera, and Jason, who's essentially behind the camera, interacting with the fans and kind of feeding it. And I thought this was a fun clip to kind of break it up because it also shows the spontaneity and serendipity of live streaming. So this is from an event that we did for Ubisoft, and this is the moment where Justin becomes the #1 player in North America in this game.
So close.
And to give a sense why Justin has, I'm just going to say, 10, 20,000 people, watching at this time. It's probably like 3 in the afternoon.
There we go. There we go. Who is that? Oh. I'm on my high score, don't mess with me. Got this.
It's a pretty fun game. If you've never seen Rayman, it's a really unique game. Yeah, you're about to see. It's incredibly competitive. We had an event with a few million people competing in it.
How you like me now?
He just got the high score, basically, in this game. And he'd been playing it for weeks on end to get the high score.
Yeah.
Imagine if you got that kind of attention.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So I thought it was just fun because it really kind of shows the spontaneity of that and what you can capture. I mean, that's something you would never capture that moment any other way. So a little bit of technical. Go ahead.
So do you play that back on your website?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like a big marketing piece for us now. And it was actually huge for Ubisoft as part of the event. This was actually an event that we did where we were paid by Ubisoft to promote the game Rayman as part of the launch of the game. It was a huge success for them. And at our company, we use a metric called cost per game per minute, which is what's the cost we can drive gameplay. And we find that streaming is one of the least expensive ways to drive gameplay. So very, very successful.
Was there a cash prize for that, or were they voluntarily playing all?
So actually, they competed in that event for 8 weeks, and there were no cash prizes. They were, I think, Subway was a sponsor, so you could win Subway sandwiches, free games, and stuff like that. One thing that we find from a psychographic standpoint is gamers would actually rather win stuff than money, because if Subway gives a gamer a product, the gamer recognizes that Subway works with NFL and NASCAR, and to the gamer it symbolizes, it validates their passion. Like, oh, Subway works with NASCAR and video games on mainstream.
Let's change.
How old was that guy who won #1?
Like 25.
And what's the median age for the players?
So games are amazing. The majority of male gamers are 35 plus. The average male gamer is 32, 33. Average female gamer is 43 worldwide. The smallest demographic is what we would all think of, like 18 to 20 somethings, without a doubt. Video games are $26 billion a year business, which is the same size as traditional sports. So.
Wow.
It's improving eye-hand coordination.
And inspiring the next generation of game designers and producers. So we're gonna wrap up in like half an hour, but I want to talk technical a little bit. So this is kind of free range for anybody if you want to talk about like what do someone need to live stream. Clearly we could do it with the phone, but let's talk about what's really involved.
Yeah, just like I was saying, it's easy as just downloading an app, using it on your phone, to all the way up to doing stuff like main broadcast.
Which app? Which app?
Oh, Justin TV.
I think Marc should really chime in. I mean, I've been out to Marc's facility in Vegas, and it's by far one of the most impressive facilities I've seen to support live streaming on a major level. Major producer, obviously, if you're working with the Olympics, that gives you some indication. But that infrastructure there is what you would see in a teleport, if you will, for worldwide television broadcasting. But,
yeah, maybe
should
you want to
share
touch on
with
like
them
a
little
few
bit more.
key pieces of equipment
Yeah,
or
I mean,
unique
there's
to
a few
live.
players in the industry. There's us. There's Origin Digital, which is now Flux right now. There's Origin Digital Media that all have broadcast quality, downlink and encoding facilities, teleports, if you will, where they can do studio-based production, inserts, that type of thing into the things we've done. Programs that involve 4 and 5 satellite feeds coming in from various venues around the world, and we'll cut a show at our BOC in Vegas and put that out. So that's kind of towards the top of the scale. I think something like the Olympics where you're doing 41 concurrent feeds and it's all coming through NBC Sports and directly through the broadcasting system. That's like the very most complex you can get. But what I wanted to touch on when we were kind of talking about what's required, what's the gamut, it's huge, and I think that's one of the big advantages, to get back to an earlier point, to live streaming, is that there's a lot of freedom there in terms of what's acceptable from an audience perspective. There's a lot that's acceptable with live streaming that just wouldn't be with broadcast media or film. And you can basically, it's kind of the long tail thing. It's the concept of good enough, right? If I can do something with a phone and it looks decent enough, sounds good enough, and it's giving me a fly-on-the-wall perspective into something that I'm not able to see otherwise, that's a fantastically compelling experience. And it involves a guy sitting in a chair with a phone. Or if you're trying to replicate television, or trying to provide a second screen experience for to accompany a broadcast like the Oscars and Grammys or something like that, then you've got 15, 20 guys sitting in a truck, and you've got 15 camera operators, and you've got a whole bunch of army of utilities, and you've got a large crew. So it really does.
In terms of equipment, but in terms of equipment, some midway point between the big production guys and like the smaller, just streaming from your iPhone is New Tech. New Tech TriCasters are amazing pieces of hardware. Yeah.
New Tech is great.
Yeah.
We use it all the time. Livestream has hardware too. As an FYI.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would be interesting, I think, for everyone here on the technical note too, Marc, if you would want to touch upon, everybody thinks about encoding as you just take it from a satellite, goes into a machine, and then something magically happens, and it goes to a CDN like Akamai or Amazon or so on. But it's really important, and Marc's group is probably the most qualified to talk about this, is the encoding process is an art form in and of itself. You could have a really beautiful HD stream, hit that encoder, and it's going to turn out like a pile of poopy. So I'm a big fan of guys that are doing, or women, men, whoever, it's custom encoding, and really understanding how that works, and all the things that you can do in terms of ad insertion in real time. It's just fantastic. The technology now is way more sophisticated than it was when we all started doing this in the 90s. And it's just come a long way when there's actual companies like Elemental, Digital Rapids, and some of these other folks actually create these boxes and have a whole layer of software on top of the encoding software that allow you to manage that experience in ways you just can't really comprehend until you get into it.
Before we go on, we're going to go for about 20 more minutes, but Marc unfortunately has to leave in a couple minutes, so just want to thank Marc for joining us. He's going to leave at a certain point, but go ahead, please.
Yeah, just to touch on what Marc was saying, we're actually in the throes of creating a platform like that ourselves now. I'm not sure how much you know about that. You guys should probably talk. And I don't want this to turn into a sales pitch, but we're creating a cloud encoding platform that released last September, and so we're starting to realize some of the challenges that we're faced by things like Digital Rapids and things like that. There is an art form for sure, and we've got some of the best impressions in the industry. We do nothing but figure out how to make. One of the points I wanted to make earlier about what is live streaming, what defines live streaming. Live streaming, for me at least, one of the things that defines live streaming is that you're taking baseband content of some kind, the broadcast quality or contribution quality of these content, and compressing shit out of it so that it will travel across a relatively lossy medium to a bunch of people with iPhones or with laptops or with that type of thing. So to get acceptable looking video to the end user requires a tremendous amount of finesse. You know what I mean? And so I think that's definitely a key element in what we're trying to do.
Think about it as color correction in a way. I mean, it's not the right direct analogy, but it is in some respects. At least that's how I think. If you have a good colorist, your stuff's going to look even better than when you shot it. If you have a great encoding specialist, your stuff's going to look as good or better than what you started out with. So it's something to keep in mind in terms of the food chain.
Just one last thing on a technical standpoint. You can grab a HD webcam and their freeware like XSplit and stuff like that. You could run it on your PC totally free.
Yep.
So
or Justin TV, just log on and go.
Yeah,
and then social cam too, which is great.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of solutions out there, basically at every price point and every kind of technical capability, if you will. Do you want to just throw out some acronyms and stuff around formats, just so people can hear some of it in terms of the formats that you guys are using? Or?
I mean, I think you just touched on FMLE, which is the Flash Media Live Encoder, which is an Adobe product. It's important to kind of note that it puts out a format called RTMP, which is fast becoming the second tier standard. Everything in broadcast traditionally, whether it's satellite or fiber backhaul or whatever you're dealing with, has all been MPEG transport streams, right? Now a lot of the platforms like the one we're developing, like Windows Azure Media Services, like all of these kind of cloud-based platforms that allow transmuxing and transcoding and delivery to vast numbers of different platforms and devices from one input are now supporting RTMP, which has been kind of a live streaming only prosumer level kind of technology, right? And now it's becoming a broadcast standard almost in terms of the ability to sit in a hotel ballroom or a sports stadium or wherever you happen to be broadcasting from, and if you can have a piece of software sitting on a laptop with a decent HDMI connection to it, you can stream 1080p using pieces of free software into a cloud-based transcoding platform and have it look absolutely perfect, pristine on the other end on your iPhone, your iPad, or your television, or your whatever you're streaming to. So that's important. TNP, huge standard.
Flash
Can you
Media Live
project a little
Encoder
bit
is what it's
more?
called.
Absolutely.
So any other slang terminology that you think is important? One that I thought was important is concurrence, because that's not something. So probably the most important metric we have around viewership is this idea of concurrence, and that's the maximum number of people that we're concurrently watching. So we're often talking about viewership, which is like how many people watched in total, but probably the thing everybody really competes about, I would say, is concurrence.
Kind of the brag number.
Yeah, and basically that's like where you peak as a way to think of
to
it.
gauge the scale of a live event. The
impressions.
Right, and how much opportunity do we have in terms of time to play out my big report, right? So it depends on who you ask, but yeah, I think occurrence is always the one that everyone talks about. For example, during the Sochi Olympics, we had the men's semifinal hockey game ended up being at 2.2 million concurrents, which is absolutely the biggest sporting event. Authenticated users, all Akamai. Not, they didn't have any problems whatsoever. The biggest thing about it was that it was authenticated users, so cable and satellite subscribers who authenticated, signed in to watch the content. YouTube's done stuff that eclipses that. The Red Bull Stratus project was 8.1 something million viewers, huge amount of viewers. But it could have been right. But again, it could have been anybody, and they didn't have to be subscribing to anything. This required that you were, a user of Time Warner, Knox,
So in the early days of live streaming, we used to be worried about how could we serve so many people. What type of infrastructure has been built and where are the limits of something happens and the world wants to log in? How do you?
Moose after that, unfortunately. Thank you for having me. Marc on this great quote. Here's where we started. The first large-scale event in history was the Tibet Freedom Festival in 1996, and that was using real audio technology. We were doing JPEG push to get our webcam out. We had a chat room going, and we built the encoders ourselves, and we did a deal with Pac Bell, who in essence was our CDN, and we went to Digital Equipment Corp, who's not really around anymore, and we had 5 DEC Alpha machines, and we loaded them up with the software and put them strategically around the U.S. and globally, and that's how we did it. We did it ourselves. We just got on the phone, and we had a great call. It was a big event. It was perfect timing, and it blew up from there, and we had a bigger infrastructure than Marc Cuban at the time. He had 2 DEC Alphas. I had 5. It's kind of an ongoing joke between us. I was like, he made the billion though, so he's the one laughing. It's limitless. It's if you're gonna do a big event, have great, just like anything else, hire the right people, work with the right partners, or don't do it. There's a limited capacity to Justin TV and live stream and Ustream to a certain degree, even YouTube, right? If you're not working directly with an Akamai or some of these other folks, you can get egg on your face. And you've seen that recently. There's been reports of that happening. And that's just basically someone on the network side, meaning the broadcast network side, that didn't hire the right people. So be smart about it. There's other solutions like Amazon S3. That's terrific. They have a large amount of capacity. But what a lot of people assume is that, it's Amazon. They're going to know that we're doing this big event and it'll just work. Guess what? It doesn't just work. You have to let them know in advance. Like, for sure, iStream Planet was calling Akamai and saying, we're doing the Olympics. You need to open the floodgates on capacity to allow us to have, we're anticipating a certain amount of viewership and concurrent viewers. By the way, that's how they end up billing you, too. So they're happy to do that, and you can also broker deals with them by buying bandwidth in advance. So it becomes, you're like buying airtime. It's a similar concept. So the difference here is that the infrastructure that you need is quite sophisticated, and you have to be in communication with your partners. Otherwise, you're going to have, and see what happened just recently on a couple of occasions, which I won't mention because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus.
And one thing you don't want is to go down. You don't want to stream, because then all that work that you did, it falls off, and you're picking up the pieces.
What it does even more so, and I say this even to my competitors, I don't want any of my competitors to fail. I want them all to succeed, because even if I'm competing with them against the job, if their projects fail, then that's going to be bad for our industry and the growth of that industry. So I never want them to fail. To the point where I'll go and help them, right, if that comes up, because it's really important that it just keeps moving forward. You wouldn't have a Netflix, for example, if the foundations of everyone on this panel wasn't laid years ago, and of course, the brilliance behind the folks leading that company. So
just to add on to what Marc was saying about capacity and thresholds and things, to give you an idea of the growth, I'd say as little as 5 years ago, we would contact a CDN, we would contact Akamai, for example, if we expected the viewership to exceed something like 10,000 viewers.
Right.
Now it's about 1.5 million.
Yeah, this is
we don't
concurrent.
we don't even pick up the phone if it's less than 1 million or 1.5 million.
Because they have the infrastructure to support it.
Absolutely, because they just won't fall down.
Blood in their back.
Just to sort of get to the point about making guaranteed success, what kind of redundancies do you guys put in place to make sure that if something does go down, that there's a B, a C, and possibly a D solution?
It's mostly not on the CDN side that we'll put a B in place. Like if I use Amazon or if I'm using an Akamai, I know pretty much it's going to work. Even if I'm using a Justin TV or a live stream or a Ustream, I know what their capacity is ahead of time because I'm going to have that discussion with their CEO or someone high up on the food chain, so I'm aware. It's on the capture and the delivery side. So a lot of times we'll encode on site as well as have a satellite or a video fiber back to a facility like Marc. So we definitely make sure that we have redundancy on the encoding side for sure, and failovers in that regards. But on the CDN side, you don't really need to do it if you're working with the right provider. As you said, they've got it dialed.
Unless the customer wants to pay.
Unless they want, and they want to write a really good check. And on that, thank you for having me, Charles.
So one thing just to finish off on that, I would definitely recommend uplink redundancy. 2 routers, 2 separate internet connections. We've had tons of issues where just a router dies, you know, and how are you even going to know?
Yeah, just like Marc was saying, like as long as we know, we can prepare for it. Like we basically are our own CDN, but we do have a fail-safe if we get into an accident.
Yeah, I think the short answer is as much as possible.
Yeah.
As much redundancy as possible and as
But on the encoding side, thank you, it's much easier now. So you talked about having put together all the different encoders. Now it's all coming and integrated in a box, streaming in a box. Several different purveyors, some like out of places like Slovakia, that will sell that at a really low cost. You don't have to go through and put it all together.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
and those are just off the shelf, will it in, so it'll be some new announcements this year.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's going to be real prevalent in NAB this year is talk about, at least in the streaming world, talk about encode once to many platforms or cloud platforms. So where we would have maybe $30,000 worth of encoding gear sitting on site at some special event and doing the encoding on site. Now maybe it's a 1U rack mount encoding appliance that I'm using to push out RTMP, like I was talking about, to a cloud platform, and then that's where all of my redundancy is, and maybe I've got 2 of those devices on site, and that's a total of $5,000 worth of gear that I'm dealing with. So it's definitely changing. The scale is changing, and I think cloud computing is definitely helping that.
Cheaper and less switchgrass.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
So we have some time left. Do you want to just does anybody have questions? We can take some questions before we go ahead.
Yeah, mine's not really a question, but I'm kind of like a case study. 15 years ago, I started my career in streaming. The International Softball Congress is an organization that holds an annual world championship. And I challenged the organization when I joined the board of directors to see if there was a way we could use the internet to broadcast the World Championship Tournament, which is held annually in August. So all these, I was about 40 at the time, and all these guys like in their 60s looked at me with blank stares like I was out of my fucking mind. And so they said, like, yeah, well, if you think you know what you're doing, knock yourself out. And I really didn't kind of know what I was doing. I knew enough to be dangerous. But with that, I was able to put together a streaming system 15 years ago, and there were no tools. When you had to, hook your toaster up to your computer to make it work. And now for 15 years we've been doing this. So we basically took a sport that mainstream sports media was paying zero attention to, even though at the elite level of World Championship play, it's every bit as exciting and competitive as Major League Baseball. And we just rolled our own broadcast system, and now we have thousands of viewers around the world who tune in every year to the World Championship. And even though I pitched for 33 years, I wasn't a good enough pitcher to be in the Hall of Fame as a pitcher. But because of this project I did, I ended up getting in the Hall of Fame. So, I think at the time I started, Marc Cuban was about the only other person in the world who was bold enough to be trying to make it work, along with a handful of others. But you don't have to be too brave to try to do this. It's if I did it, anybody in this room can.
And I think there's a lot of stories like that in terms of live streaming. You know, even 15 years ago, making a sport.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
Would you agree with the statement? Live streaming made online gaming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Twitch essentially did make online gaming.
Yeah, I would absolutely say if live video streaming made esports and will continue to, without a doubt.
So how long do you think it is before we have the switchover where, which you know we have to be going to, where live streaming would still be the event that would take over a television broadcast, where you're referring to it as live, it could still be a on-demand premiere of something and have people, not meaning everyone watching at the same time like you do when a show comes on now, but through the streaming audience at that exact time, but going through the internet, as opposed to cable companies, which every time that I go to play back some other show that they're watching and they want me to log in, just feels like an attempt to still try to now control the internet, the internet space. Television is going to go away, and it's going to be streaming at some point. Where do you think this is like the question of the future, where do you see live streaming of both events and television premiering on the web as opposed to any other medium?
Well, it's already happening, right? Like House of Cards is a perfect example. Orange is the New Black. There's all this stuff that was direct to streaming rather than on the
Where I say live, I mean that everyone has to be home at this time because it's going to be the one broadcast.
That's going to actually go away.
I agree. Yeah. I think it's already gone away to a certain extent.
Except for sports.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. In terms of scripted content, I think that it started with the concept of time shifting, and now I don't think scheduled scripted programming is a thing for anybody. It's not a consideration for certainly not for advertisers.
I would say instead there's new things that are happening. Like, to me, one of the most exciting things that's happened in the last few months was this thing called Twitch Plays Pokemon.
Oh, yeah.
And essentially, someone created a server where everybody in that chat that you saw in Twitch was essentially fighting to control the game, and everybody's watching it in real time, and millions of people participated in that. So you have millions of people playing a video game together, watching themselves playing the video game. I mean, so that's something we couldn't have even imagined without these platforms.
That was user generated. Twitch didn't do that.
Absolutely. And that's the best example of it. Someone just had that idea and just did it.
It was hosted on Twitch, but it was user generated content.
And so I think those are the exciting things, these new things that just weren't even possible before.
I just want to underscore a point that you guys made about the forgiveness you're given in these live streams, because I've experienced that. I run an online art school, and a year ago we said we gotta go live, and it was a webcam and laptops, and they didn't care. The sound was fine. They were so grateful to be connecting, and now we have the big box and C300s and live switching and all this other stuff. But truthfully, to connect live, there's a lot of forgiveness that goes on because connection and transparency are what it's all about. And for any of you who are not jumping in because you're afraid of getting it perfect right out of the gate, don't worry about it.
The biggest hurdle, though, is audio. Like people are willing to deal with crappy video, but if you have crappy audio, they're not going to want you.
That's so true. And they'll really be vocal about it. And that is one thing, is the interaction that you have, and they'll tell you right there in real time, like, oh, the channel's out, or it sounds crappy, or fix the mic, or they'll be right on top of you.
But they forgive you.
It's true.
And you say, got it, we're on it.
Yeah,
We'll fix it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks for the heads up.
And I think it's beyond forgiving. It's like you can get some of those money moments that you're not going to get if you're unscripted. So, and that's going to catapult, that's going to help your promotion, your marketing, all that stuff.
One more question?
Yeah.
Sure.
The biggest snafu in doing all this that I've found out is buffering on the user's end. And it's gotten better over the years, obviously. It's not like it was 15 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago. But has anybody on the panel found a way to mitigate the buffering problem regardless of user
Yeah, well, it's
solutions?
We do live transcoding. So you know, whatever the user gives us, that's what we spit out. But we also spit out different qualities for the viewer. So they could watch it. You know, if they have a great connection, they could watch it at 1080p. If they have a really poor connection, they can watch it on 24.
But does that really mitigate all buffering?
Well, you know, it's as best as we can do.
Right.
You know, if you have like
But that's the state of the art for trying to control it on the producer end.
It's the state of the art for trying to control a lot of the issues with live streaming in general. But this is the adaptive bitrate thing that I was talking about. That was kind of a sea change for live streaming. That was 6 or 7 years ago when Move and then Microsoft and then Adobe and then Apple all came out with their competing technologies. Instead of putting out a 200 kilobit stream and a 600 kilobit stream and a 1 megabit stream like we do years ago, and then someone selects the 1 megabit because that sounds like it's going to be the best thing, but they just don't have the bandwidth to pull it. That's when you start getting buffering, poor user experience. If they don't know enough to hit the other button to get the other stream, and that's what caused this kind of really pervasive bad user experience when it came to live streaming, and that's why it was such a novelty. And now I think it's become a real medium because you have the ability to set it and forget it, to fire up the player, and the player is intelligent enough to give you what you can handle, what your bandwidth can handle, what the CPU of your PC or your mobile device or whatever can handle. So you really don't see the buffering anymore, even on the mobile networks. I mean, I was watching on my iPhone, not even on LTE, it was like a typical 4G tower, in my car driving, watching 720p content. It didn't skip once, not a hiccup.
Were you driving?
It was LA. It was not cold. It was safe.
Yeah, I love LA.
Yeah.
It was working. We'll take one more question, then we really have to wrap up to let everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah. What do you think is the delta for the CPM for streaming versus VOD?
From a revenue perspective?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing a huge difference in revenue VOD versus live. I don't know about you guys.
Revenue or CPM?
Well, I mean, I guess for me, I'm seeing the revenue from the CPM. So,
right.
I mean, we're charging the same basically either way.
Because if I'm getting the same amount per eyeball, but I got to pay for this massive infrastructure to do live.
All right, so yeah, I see what you're saying. At least on our side, we're basically seeing the same CPMs live versus VOD.
That may change soon. So Gartner released a study, and one of our partners, Udala, released a study, both of which I think Gartner's was 8x and Udala's was 10x in terms of engagement, live versus on demand. So that's going to have to drive some changes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the advantage though, and it's at least our focus is, like, we don't show ads. It's all, for lack of a better term, branded content. So, and I think that's a lot of what all of us are doing. So, it's not like there's an hour show with ad insertions. It's an hour ad that is the content. And maybe the ads are actually promoting the content itself, not even promoting the brand. So, ultimately, I think I'm seeing like package things more than just buying inventory.
Yeah, certainly in terms of CPMs, it's all going to depend on the platform you're dealing with. If you're doing in-content advertising, that kind of thing, branded advertising, or if you're on a platform like YouTube where you're letting them run a pre-roll ad and then possibly a mid-roll ad. There's all kinds of different options out there, all of which have a kind of a set CPM. So.
And would say biggest thing is targeting, right? Like YouTube's everyone, Twitch is gamers. That's why they get a lot more money. I think we have to. So sorry. Michael for putting all this together.
Thank you for all They may be here, but we do need to skedaddle like 3 minutes ago.